Shubh Prabhat. Okay, as we wait for the next Supreme Court hearing on August 12th, let's unpack the critical necessity for immediate financial relief for Indian citizens aged 75 and above who are trapped in lengthy legal battles over pensions updation.
Right? Imagine, you work your entire life, you pay your taxes, you build a family.
And then you reach age 80 and you have to literally sue the government for your own pension.
It's honestly a sad and unfortunate scenario.
Right. It's like a bank freezing your life savings and making you fight an 18-year court battle just to buy grocery.
Right.
So, today we are doing a deep dive into an advocacy document centered on the landmark Supreme Court case, MC Singla vs. State of Punjab and the DFS.
Yes, and our mission here is really to uncover why delaying justice for these elderly folks, what they call super seniors, is actually a full blown constitutional and existential crisis.
Because if I'm 40 and I get stuck in a contract dispute for like 5 years, I'm angry, but I have time.
Exactly.
But if I'm 85, the state is effectively running out my biological clock, right?
Right? And in legal terms, that triggers the doctrine of irreversible harm. Courts usually grant interim relief when delaying a payment causes permanent damage.
Oh, I see.
Yes. And for a super senior, meaning citizens over 75, that damage is not just a risk, it is a certainty. They might literally not survive long enough to read the final judgment or receive remedy.
Okay, so it's almost like an insurance company refusing to pay for a tarpaulin after a hurricane until the whole house is rebuilt.
Exactly.
By the time they finally approve the funds, the water damage has destroyed the foundation anyway.
That is a very accurate way to look at it. Delaying the initial help to super senior retirees renders the final victory completely useless.
Right?
And the sources detail the grim reality of this for India's 30 million super seniors. Like, it's not just missing money, well, for one, it's medical inflation and potentially existential.
Oh, right, because healthcare costs keep rising.
Exactly. Without their funds, they can't keep up with that. So they end up depending entirely on their children if they're lucky. Otherwise, they run the risk of succumbing to a treatable illness due to lack of financial resources.
Which explains the family fragmentation the document talks about.
Oh, absolutely. The financial strain of supporting an aging parent who's locked in a seemingly endless lawsuit, it creates severe resentment and conflict.
Yes, I can imagine.
And that often ends in the elder's extreme social isolation.
That's just heartbreaking.
It is. And isolating an elder while stripping them of their financial independence, that's a direct violation of Article 21 of the Indian Constitution.
Because that article guarantees dignity, right?
Yes, the right to dignity, not just bare survival. This also maps perfectly onto international standards uh, like the UN Principles for Older Persons, which require states to ensure independence and care.
Forcing someone into litigation fatigue over their own retirement money definitely violates all those human rights mandates.
It does.
Okay, but hold on. Here is where it gets really interesting to me. If dragging these cases out is so destructive, why does the state even do it? I mean, my cynical side assumes they're just stalling to save money.
Well, you would assume that, but the data in the document claims denying these interim payments actually increases long term state litigation costs.
Wait, really? How does a delayed payment snowball into a bigger expense?
Because the state isn't just withholding a check, they're also actively funding the legal defense of their non compliance.
Oh, wow.
Yes, they pay administrative overhead, continuous litigation expenses, and lawyers to fight endless frivolous appeals.
Right, of course.
Then, when the senior inevitably passes away during the process, the state has to deal with complex posthumous claims from the legal heirs, which just drags the process out even longer.
That is insane. The bureaucracy is literally spending more money fighting the elderly than it would cost to just pay them what they are owed.
Exactly.
So, why on earth do bureaucrats keep doing it? I mean, is it just incompetence? Or is there a structural reason they prefer to delay?
Oh, it is entirely structural. A mid level bureaucrat has almost zero incentive to authorize a large payout. Because if they approve it, they risk an audit or being accused of mismanaging funds. If they deny it and kick the can down the road to the courts, it just becomes someone else's problem.
Usually in the next fiscal year.
Precisely. They are prioritizing their own procedural safety over social equity and a human being's dignity in old age.
Which totally explains why this advocacy framework is pushing for an automatic mechanism. The proposal argues that if a super senior establishes a prima facie case, the state should just automatically release 50 to 75% of the funds immediately, bypassing that bureaucratic fear.
And the framework pairs that with a mandate to fast track the actual hearings within 30 days. No endless adjournments without exceptional cause.
So it shifts the burden of delay away from the most vulnerable party.
Exactly. A nation is ultimately judged by how it treats its elders, and this would codify that ethical duty to respect their lifelong contributions into enforceable policy.
So, what does this all mean for you listening? I mean, this deep dive reveals how society values or does not value you once you step out of the workforce.
Yes, ensuring swift justice for the elderly isn't about charity, it's about upholding a constitutional right to dignity that you carry with you your entire life.
Right? And implementing this framework would establish that basic compassion must be standard procedure, not a rare exception.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll leave you with this. The proposed framework suggests financial penalties for government departments that cause these delays.
Which is a good start.
Yes, but imagine taking it a step further. If the bureaucrats who endlessly stall these cases were forced to pay those penalties out of their own future pensions,
Oh,
right? How quickly do you think that massive backlog of 80-year-old litigants would magically disappear? Just something to consider next time you wonder how secure your own post retirement life will be.
thank you for watching. Please subscribe and leave a comment for the algorithm. It ensures our podcast reaches people like you who needs to see this. Namaste.